What's up everybody? In today's video we're going to be talking about D.Va. We're going to do a rundown of her kit, some of the things that she excels at, and also some tips and tricks that will hopefully help us win more team fights and games. This is going to be a bit of a different video than the videos that I've made in the past. Videos that I've made in the past were kind of just some montages, I guess, as you could call them. Today we're going to do a little bit of a D.Va guide. Some viewers of mine have been requesting this, and although I'm not the best D.Va player in the world, I think I know a thing or two about how to play most of the tanks at a decent level, and I think that this will be a good guide for beginners and also people who are just trying to get, a little bit more info out of how to make good use of D.Va's kit overall. So the first thing that we want to talk about here is going to be D.Va's primary fire, which are her fusion cannons. The cool thing about her primary fire is that she actually has unlimited ammo, so you never have to worry about reloading. The kicker here is that you are going to need to be up close to really get a lot of value out of the damage that it has to offer. Shooting at enemies from mid to long range typically doesn't provide much value in terms of pure damage. As you can see, if we start shooting this Ana here at this distance, we don't really get a lot of damage here. So I wouldn't recommend really shooting at enemies from this distance just for pure damage. What you can do, however, is use this to poke out enemies to pressure them. And you can also use this to interrupt specific abilities, such as the support passive healing. So if Ana was, half HP, and she started getting her passive kicking in and she was healing up, you can actually do this to interrupt that. You can also do this with other abilities in the game, such as Sombra's Stealth, and there are a few other abilities as well. I also recommend using a larger reticle, kind of like I am. See, I'm using like the big circle in the center. This kind of just also gives me a good gauge of the spread on the gun. Yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for the fusion guns. The next ability that goes hand in hand with D.Va's primary fire is going to be her micro missiles. The micro missiles can actually do up to 198 damage, and this is a channeled ability that can be interrupted by stuns. This is a fantastic ability, especially if you combine it with D.Va's primary fire on an isolated target such as a Winston. As you can see, we can kind of burst down Winston relatively quickly. You can also do this with a lot of the other heroes in the game. So try to make sure that you're making good use of your micro missiles with your primary fire on isolated targets, and you can also pressure other enemies if they're trying to push up on your team as well. Arguably the best part of D.Va's kit is going to be her defense matrix. Defense matrix blocks most projectiles in the game and allows you to peel for your team very effectively. Not only can you soak up massive amounts of damage with it, you can also eat other heroes' abilities, which waste the enemy's cooldowns while simultaneously allowing your team to be more aggressive. Here's an example of me using defense matrix to deny an entire Pharaoh ult. Here's a few examples of abilities that D.Va's defense matrix can eat. Due to the timing of these abilities, blocking them can be difficult, but if you can get in the habit of being more aware of your enemy team composition and planning ahead of what you need to look for, you will have a lot of success. When using defense matrix, try to pay a lot of attention to the gauge. Usually you want to try and make sure that it is at least the halfway point, usually at all times. So you can shoot, use some, shoot, use some, etc. You want to make sure that you kind of have a defense matrix for all situations. If you start tracking enemy abilities, kind of know when things are going to be happening, that's when you can make really good use of defense matrix. D.Va's ultimate, Self-Destruct, is a cool but tricky ultimate to pull off. The cool thing about D.Va's ultimate is that it can be used defensively as well as offensively. If you're attempting to hold a point, you can use D.Va's ult to threaten the enemy team and perhaps secure a kill or two, which will simultaneously draw out enemy cooldowns. This is an effective strategy that will shave time off the game clock, put pressure on the enemy team, and give your team more space to work with. On the flip side, you can also use D.Va ult offensively in the same manner. I wouldn't personally always recommend just throwing your ult directly up or out, as this is very predictable for the enemy team. If you look down in the direction you want to use her ult, boost, then ult, you can actually slide the ultimate on the ground or on corners, which is less predictable and more likely to be successful. The last part of D.Va's kit that we need to go over is her boosters. D.Va's boosters are on a 4-second cooldown and allow her to strategically reposition herself often to give her and her team advantages. You can use D.Va's boosters to go on dive opportunities, or to simply peel for your team in a bad situation. D.Va's boosters can also be used simply for scouting purposes, and taking high ground is a good example of this. Not only are we able to scope out enemy ability usage from up here that our teammates may not see, we can also again use this position to look for dive opportunities if our team composition permits it. If you see an enemy on the high ground, such as a soldier, you can use your boosters to dive them, pressure them off the high ground. This will provide your team with more space while also denying the soldiers damage. D.Va is a very unique hero that excels at not only protecting her team but also enabling them. Defense Matrix is an incredibly strong ability that allows her to protect her team, and if you combine this with her high damage output, she becomes really strong when used correctly. So, when playing D.Va, try to make note of the enemy team comp and try to pick the best playstyle for the matchup. The first tip that I have for D.Va is try to make sure that you're using your ultimate in a way that allows you to either live from the fight or get a free kill or two. For example, if you're in a team fight and you know you're about to die and you have no other use for your ultimate, you can use it as a free life. The second tip that I have is to try and make sure that you're using your boosters often to reposition yourself. Just try to make sure that you're paying attention to your team though, and that you don't use your boosters and end up in a situation where you're unable to get out. The last tip that I'd like to mention is the D.Va squish. What is the D.Va squish? So, when D.Va is actually out of her mech, she can recall her mech to get it back. So for example, throw the ult that way. Now, you have to recall the mech. This actually does very, very good damage up close, if you can manage to land it. I don't recommend going for this very often, as it is very difficult, but I'll show you a couple of examples when it does work out. Do note that calling the mech like that does do 250 damage, so will be really useful against squishies. So yeah, that's going to be my D.Va guide. I know it's not the most in-depth thing in the world, but hopefully it's enough for beginners and players trying to just up their D.Va game. If you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments. If you enjoy this kind of content and would like to see more guides perhaps, also just let me know down below. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.